Hi, it's Matt from Go Green Auto. So here we have a Renault Kangoo Maxi van. This is 100% electric. It's got the 22 kilowatt hour battery pack. And the Maxi van is the long wheelbase van, so it's the LL21, and you get that much extra there in the wheelbase. It makes a huge difference inside, and you also get a sliding door on both sides, this side and obviously that side over there, and much larger cargo area. And as you've probably seen there, this one doesn't have a bulkhead. It's open, and you have the two bars there protecting the driver. It's ply lined, pretty nice condition. Obviously it's been used, but the ply's all in nice condition still. Ply up on bottom, top and bottom of the doors there. You've got the toolkit there. These do have a full-size spare that mounts underneath there as well. So these Renault Kangoo vans have a rented battery pack. So what that means is you buy the vehicle, you own the van, but then you hire that battery pack from Renault. Well, it's actually RCI Bank. That's who does the finance for Renault and Nissan. So you pay a monthly fee from £25 plus VAT a month. If you're not VAT registered, then that's £30 a month. And you basically rent that battery pack that sits there under the floor, so you don't have to worry about that battery degrading. So they give a guarantee of 60% of its original state of health. So when that battery has lost 40% of its original capacity, then you get a new battery pack. Included in this service, you also get breakdown cover as well. So the purpose of these videos primarily is to describe the condition, and I go in detail showing every little mark, stone chip, scratch or dent I can find. I'm very honest about the condition of the vehicles, and then what that does is gives people the confidence to buy the vehicle without coming to view it first, and then I deliver the vehicle to them. And 9 out of 10 vehicles do go without a viewing first because of these videos. So let's walk around and describe this one. So for the eagle-eyed viewers, you may have noticed there is a dent here in the bonnet. That is getting sorted. I've got the dent guy coming on Tuesday. It's about the size of my hand. I suspect someone sat on the bonnet there. That will get pulled out, so we can ignore that for now. But when it's done, I will add more photos in the photo gallery showing that has been removed, so we can ignore that little dent for now. As I just said, I've got a photo gallery on the website, so anything I'm going to point out I've taken pictures of, so you can go to the photo gallery, zoom into the picture and have a better look if you need to. So firstly, looking around the front, there is a scratch here in the plastic bumper. It's not a split, it is just a scratch, but obviously just a plastic bumper. Apart from that dent now on the bonnet, there's no other marks or dents on the bonnet there. Looking around the side, there's a few minor little scratches down there on the wheel trim. These wheel trims do protrude rather on the electric Kangoos. They're unique to the ZE models, and they always get caught on curbs when you're parking. But yeah, it's just a plastic wheel trim. There are a few little dents to point out on this vehicle. It's not perfect on the outside like most of my vans are, but you know, it's a low mileage, nice condition van on the inside. It's just got a few marks on the outside, so I will go through and point them all out. There's a few little dents along the crease here. There's two there, one there. It has also been sign written at some point, because what you find is when people take the vinyl writing off, they nick the paint, and it's got a few little small scratches around where sign writing has been removed. Where the paint has gone through, I have gone round and dabbed a bit of white paint in there because I've got the Renault touch-up stick. There is a few little dents here. Actually, there's a little bit of glue there. Scratch here, a few little dents just here. There's a few scratches there and there from where the sign written was removed. So the more important dents I need to show you is there is a scratch and a crease here and here. So it was just this little bit here where it had gone through the paint, so I've run a line of touch-up stick in there, touch-up paint, but that is noticeable on that side, but not, I didn't think it was bad enough to go and get that sorted in a body shop. Looking around on the back, I'm going to be really critical. There is a little bit of plastic chipped on the light there, but it's not on the lens part, so there's no water can get in or anything like that, so it's fine. There's a couple of screw holes in this bit of plastic trim. It looks like they had a reversing camera mounted on the back because there was a wire teed into the reversing light, which I've removed. Looking along the back, it's all pretty good along the back. The only thing I would point out is there is a little dent here in the door, thumbnail size, which always happens. What that is when people slam the wrong door first, and then that catch hits the bodywork here. So there's a little bit of dent, but again, I've put a bit of white paint in there. And then, like the other side, there is a couple of scratches down here, so we can see them already. There's this one here, and then there is this longer one here, so it starts on that door, it's dented here as well, and then goes to here. So again, I've run a bit of paint in the bits where the paint was scratched through, but yeah, it is more noticeable, as you can see. And then continuing along, there's a couple of fine little dents along this door. There's two there, one there, one there, one there, along that crease there. Again, on this crease, there's a couple of 1, 2, 3, 4 here as well. They're all very small, but they do show up. You do get that quite a lot on the Kangoos. And that's it, or some very minor scratching on the wheel trim, but that wheel trim is always the one that hits the curb. The mirrors are all good. The windscreen doesn't have any stone chips. And the bumpers front and rear are really nice as well. I would also add I have waxed it all as well, so it's all nice and smooth, and as you can see, it's just rained and the water's beading very nicely. So overall, I might be sounding a bit negative here, but you'd look at that and think, yeah, it's a pretty nice van, but obviously we've got those scratches and indentations on both sides where something has scraped down the side. Let's look inside the cargo area. So it's all fully ply lined, and there on the back doors. This is your charge cable, type 2 to type 2 for AC charging, but I'll go into the charging a little bit later on. We've got these aluminium bits on the side as well, which is quite nice. And then going around the back, the ply's all in pretty good condition actually. You've got your normal sort of dents that you get on the back doors, which you always get on these, but the reflectors and the bump stop here is everything's here that you would want. These handles usually snap off as well. One had actually on this and I've replaced it. No bulkhead, so we've got the frame there protecting the driver, as I've probably said, but yeah, in the back all really nice condition. And then the condition on the inside, it's all pretty good actually. The seats are in nice condition. There's a little bit of a stain there. I have washed the seats. I'm sure that one would come out if you want to try a second time, but a little bit of scratching on the dashboard. There's a little bit up here, a bit of something's obviously been laid on here at some point, and it's just put little I say nicks, but it's almost like a jumper bubbles, you know, as they age. I suspect with a plastic nylon sponge or something you could clean that off. Steering wheel's all in nice condition. It's all pretty good actually inside. Everything works as it should do. You've got, being a phase 2 van, you've got the newer stereo that's also got Bluetooth, so you can connect to your phone. You've got USB as well, so you can play MP3. It doesn't have a CD. You've got preheating on the heater here, so you can set a time on your dash what time you're going to leave in the morning, and then while it's connected to your charger, the heating system will switch on. It will heat the cab up, melt the ice off the windows, and be ready for when you leave. And then you can leave with 100% battery and 100% of your range, and then you can probably do your drive without the heating on at all, because the heating does reduce range, because it's the only other thing that uses the traction battery under the floor. Because electric vehicle, there's no heat. With a normal petrol and diesel, you've got a fire under the bonnet effectively, and endless amounts of heat that you're actually trying to get rid of. With electric vehicle, you've got to generate heat because nothing is producing any heat, and this, to generate heat, does require a lot of energy. So if you minimise your heating use, then great. So that's why you have preconditioning. And that preconditioning also works in the summer. It will just put the fan on and move the air. This doesn't have air conditioning fitted, so it won't cool as such, but it tries to cool by putting the fans on. And everything works as it should do. So I'll just start this one up. You put your foot on the brake, switch the ignition on, and then turn it round and you get a bing and the go light. So the mileage of this one is 9,065 miles. So probably your most important question is range. So I do a range test in all these Kangoos. What happens is I fully charge it and then drive it on normal roads, normal road speeds, drive it right round to empty, and I can properly prove the range and the battery condition. So this one is actually pretty good, to be honest. So I did 84.3 miles last night in this, and I charged it to full, and I drove it round until the performance limited mode cuts in. So what that is when you get down to naught or near naught, it then it's called turtle mode in a lot of other cars, but it limits the power to the motor. If you're driving under about 40 miles an hour, you don't notice any difference. But it just helps you to extend that range, and possibly to helps you then get home or get to that charger. So I drive it to that point, and on this case I did probably a good 5 miles or so in performance limited mode. But when I got back, I plugged it into my scanner and scanned the battery pack, and the battery was at 1.2% state of charge. And as I said, I did 84.3 miles. So my economy during that trip was 5.01 miles per kilowatt hour. That's how you measure economy in electric vehicles, rather than miles per gallon of fuel. It's miles per kilowatt hour of electricity. So that was pretty economic driving. If you're driving in a city or a town and it's all stop-start driving, then you can get these at about 5.5 miles per kilowatt hour. My driving yesterday was mostly rural roads, but I did a drive through Oxford twice, so a bit of stop-start driving, but most of the time it was sort of 30-40 mile hour rural roads. And a bit of A roads, a little bit of A roads at sort of 50 miles an hour. So that's the sort of range you would expect from one of these, but as always it depends how you drive, and if you're going to be heavy with your right foot, just like a petrol or diesel, then you're going to get less miles. So with an electric vehicle, you basically want to drive like you got no brakes. These have got very heavy regen on them, so when you lift off the accelerator, the vehicle slows down very quickly, and that's when you're charging the battery. So you've got to read the road ahead a bit more. When you're coming up to traffic lights, roundabouts or a junction, you lift off the accelerator and you coast, and while you're coasting you're charging the battery pack, and you want to utilize that rather than slowing down on the brakes. On the Kangoos it's really easy to drive for mile upon mile, and you'll never ever touch the brakes because the regen is quite strong, and even at speed you'll slow down to a stop in about 4 car lengths. It's really nice, proper one pedal driving. And obviously all the time you're transferring energy back into the battery pack. As soon as you hit the brakes, you're transferring energy into friction and heat on the brake pads, and you're throwing away that energy you could have put into the battery. So you know, it's just like petrol and diesel cars. It's all about how you drive. With electric vehicles, they don't particularly like speed, so if you're going to bomb along at 70 in these, you're going to watch the range drop quite significantly, because it's using a lot of energy to push through the air, and obviously you're never going to be slowing down and getting that regen back. So you do get less range if you're going to floor it, but you know, it's no different to a diesel vehicle, as I've said. But certainly lower speed town city driving is where you're going to really see good range out of these. And as I said, I did 84 miles, was it? You could probably improve that if you're just going to be driving in a city. I'll just show you the paperwork. This does have 2 original remote keys, and here we've got the logbook. This is an ex-lease vehicle, so it's had no previous keepers, so 1 keeper from new. and the registration date is the 31st of the 10th 2013. Here we have a service history printout from the lease company as well. Here we've got all the books, and I won't go through them all, but we've got all the original books and the handbook with the security sticker in the back, and the services. We've got 3 services there. It's just been serviced as well. Servicing on electric vehicles is actually minimal. There's no serviceable parts as such. The only part is the cabin filter. The servicing schedule on these is all on the dash, but it's every 24,000 miles. So yeah, what's been done: cabin filter, new wiper blades, tested the 12-volt battery and the traction battery, that's at 94% state of health, and also a rear brake service, because on these you have a habit, particularly at this age, because you don't use the brakes. Certainly the front brakes are taking all the braking, and the rear brakes, unless you've got the back loaded, hardly doing anything at all, and because of that they tend to corrode up a bit. And it makes a huge difference on these if the back brakes are nice and free and not binding, because that can make quite a difference to your range. So I've done all that as well, hence why I was getting very good economy from this vehicle during my range test. So all that's been done. So and I can see here from the previous service it had brake fluid change as well. So all the information on maintenance of these is on the website. I would also just add, this van is MOT exempt, so all electric commercial vehicles that are registered before March 2015 are MOT exempt. I don't have the current MOT certificate here. I will print it off because all that's available online, but I'll put it on the screen what the current MOT status is. But this van is MOT exempt, so there's no legal requirement for an MOT on it. But if you want an MOT, if this one is getting low, I can't remember what the position of this one is, but there's no problem getting an MOT on it. But as I've said, these are MOT exempt and you don't need to. So I would just add on these vans, servicing absolutely minimal. Actually, the servicing is just an inspection, just like the MOT test. So an MOT test is a more thorough inspection or a service than actually a proper service. So really, you know, checking your tyres, suspension, joints and shock absorbers, that sort of thing is all that's required, and that's exactly what they do in an MOT test. So that's a much more cheaper and thorough way of checking the vehicle out if you want to continue with them, but this is exempt, so there's no requirement to keep that going. Next, I'll just talk about charging on these. So charging is AC only, so this is your Type 2 charge port at the front. I should also just quickly add, these have a habit of snapping, so you need to keep these lubricated, which I've done. You can see the white grease in there, but this one's all working fine. A lot of these Kangoo, you'll find that has snapped off. But anyway, so charging is a 3.6 kilowatt 16 amp AC charging, so typically that's overnight charging. So electric vehicles, you charge them when you're not driving them, so it's during the day if you're at work, or during the night while you're sleeping. So charging on these from flat to full is about 5.5 hours on a wall charger. If you're going to charge on a 3-pin plug with a portable charging cable, then that does take longer because those can only draw 10 amp. But these do not have rapid charging, the DC rapid charging like you get on electric vehicles generally, and vans like the Nissan and the Peugeot van. So you can't do that 20 to 30 minute rapid charge on a Kangoo. So these are no good for the long distance trips. But if your daily range is within that sort of 70 mile or so, or if you can top up while you're at work, then obviously you can double that. But where these vans are very good for is that sort of inner city or low use work, where you're going to keep to within 60, 70, 80 miles a day or so. So as I've shown you, you've got your charge cable here, Type 2 to Type 2, so that's what you use, plugging into the front of the van there and plugging the other end into a wall charger. So I can arrange a wall charger either home or workplace charger. Typically they take 2 to 3 weeks to get installed, and they cost from £300. So you get a government grant, the OLEV grant of 500 quid towards that. The installer of the charger will claim that on your behalf, and it ends up costing you then 300 quid. As I said, I can arrange that, and they take 2 to 3 weeks. In the meantime, you can charge this van on a 3-pin plug using a portable charger, often called a granny cable. I can provide one of those as well. So what I do is a free loan, so you have to buy the cable up front. I can provide it with the van, and then when you've got your wall charger installed, maybe you don't want that cable anymore, so you can send it back to me within that first month, and then I give you 100% refund. So that's why it's a free loan. But most people end up keeping them because they're very handy things to have, because you can charge your van anywhere where there's a 3-pin plug. It's very handy if you're on a job during the day or at your work. You can plug in anywhere and get a top up on the van. One other thing I would just add, this has got a reversing beeper. So under here, under the rear bumper, is a buzzer, and when you put it in reverse, it goes beep beep beep. And you can turn that off, or you can disable it by turning the side lights on, because you're not meant to have buzzers going at night time. But if you don't want it, it's very easy to remove, and I could remove it for you if you didn't want it. It's just a simple buzzer down there. I suspect it's just wired up here to the reversing light, so 5-minute job to remove it if you didn't want that. So these vehicles are very cheap to run. As I said, this one is MOT exempt. You also don't pay road tax on electric vehicles currently. And if you're in London, this is also exempt from the ultra low emission zone. So if you're driving into that zone every day, it's about a saving of £7,200 a year on congestion zone and low emission zone charges, compared to running a older dirty diesel. So, you know, in London, if you're in the right place, these things virtually pay for themselves in a year. And as far as fuel costs go, these cost about £2.50 or so to charge from home, and for that you're going to get, you know, 80, maybe 90 miles. So very cheap to run. The way it works out is electric vehicles cost roughly 2 to 3p a mile on fuel, whereas a petrol or diesel is something like 13 to 14p a mile. So huge saving. These are even cheaper to run if you can get a cheap rate overnight electricity tariff. The overnight tariffs can drop to about 5p a unit versus 12 to 15p a unit, so your costs are going to be down to more like 1p a mile. And obviously a lot of public charges are free, so if you happen to live next to a place where you can get free charging and you can utilise that at the right times, then your running costs can be even less. So this van is ready to go, so if you're interested, then give me a call or email. Also, I can deliver this anywhere in the country, so let me know your postcode and I'll work out delivery cost, and this will come to you on a flatbed and it will be fully charged and ready to use. And as I said, I can provide a portable charging cable, so straight from the off you can charge it on a normal main socket. And obviously then we'll get your home charger installed, and that will take 2 to 3 weeks, and then if you no longer require that portable charger, you can return it back to me for a full refund.